Hello everyone, John Maher here, and it's Thursday 26th of June 2025, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the dairy edge. When we look at the figures this week, on average, the pasture-based data show that we have a level of surplus grass. Farm cover is over 700. Growth is higher than demand by about 15, 16 kilos nationally. The pre-grazing yield is close to 1,600. So all indicators are that grass is in surplus from the data. However, there is a bias within this. The northern part of the country is definitely growing more grass than, say, some of the southern coastal counties. And the current growth and growth predictions for the week ahead, it would look like that the growth is still going to remain good in the northern half. But for southern and coastal counties, it will be below normal and has been, a little bit below normal up to now. But the week ahead even looks at, growth into the 50s. So people have to be aware of that. And I suppose when things come under pressure, be it in surplus or deficit, walking the farm and establishing the cover on a more regular basis, I'm going to suggest every 5 days is probably the way to go. When we look forward then to the week ahead, look at where dry matters are at. Again, there's a huge degree of variation here. Some of the dry matters coming out of Moorepark are on the higher side. That's due to, I suppose, a combination of lack of rainfall, which is required in counties like Cork, southern Tipperary, South Kilkenny, Shelved, Waterford and Wexford as well. But some dry matters then in other parts of the country are more close to normal of 15 or 16%, because growth is more normal. But dry matters will fluctuate with rainfall and with growth pattern. Looking ahead then, if we look at the rainfall pattern for the week ahead, it's 2 to 3 times higher for the northern part of the country compared to the southern half, which is, I suppose, not ideal for those in the south or those in the north, but that's the pattern of rainfall that is falling, and that this is having an impact on growth as well. So, people have to be vigilant and, act on what the figures for farm supply of grass in terms of farm cover, pre-grazing yield, and what's that saying to them. And there are parts of the country that are in surplus. If you look at the pasture-based data, about 40% of the farms have surplus grass, and if this surplus is not dealt with, then grass quality will continue to disimprove. And there are challenges in grass quality out there now. It's a case of acting on this surplus where it's happening and taking those paddocks out of the equation for grazing animals, because they will be just wrong in terms of stem content and leaf content. Animals don't perform as well on them. Looking at the dairy side of it, I suppose, very quickly, feeding 4 kilos a meal and having grass in surplus and grazing too high of a cover doesn't make sense. So, for many farms that have adequate grass or in grass surplus, 2 kilos of meal makes a lot more sense and grazing the right grass. Well, we are approaching July, and swards need to be cleaned out during the next few weeks before we start building in August, and people need to keep this in mind. At the same time, I suppose there are a proportion of farms from pasture base, somewhere about 20% of farms are tight in grass supply. This is particularly in the southern coastal counties. In a scenario like that, rotation length must be held between 20 to 21 days, thereabouts, and the average farm cover kept above 600 kilograms of dry matter per hectare. Otherwise, growth will start to fall off if we deplete farm cover below those figures. So, attention to detail and where we are in terms of grass supply will make sense. As we move forward into next week, this week's Grass10 newsletter also focuses on Moorepark 2025, the open day on Wednesday, the 2nd of July. We all hope to see you there. From a grassland perspective, the day will focus on growing 14 plus tons of grass and making use of clover, both red and white. And I suppose when we look at things going forward and in terms of growing grass and having excellent grass quality, clover has a big role to play in this now, right? Which we'll come to in a minute, I suppose. But to grow 14 tons requires excellent soil fertility, reaching the grass cover targets set at the start and the end of the year. This has a big influence on the level of grass grown. People don't really understand that at times, but they are important to try and reach those targets. And I suppose the one, that we've alluded to earlier, grazing the right cover of grass is certainly important as well, because it allows the grass to stay in what we call the maximum leaf stage of 2.5 leaves per plant, And this will all be discussed on the day. From a clover perspective, then, we have the opportunity then to reduce chemical nitrogen input on the farm and achieve higher annual performance. That's what clover will do for you. However, the management of clover swards does require more attention to detail. And I suppose in terms of red clover swards, a greater focus is required on nutrient supply and nutrient input, especially potash or K. So that's the quick summary of what's coming up from a grassland perspective at the Moorepark Open Day. Michael Egan and Michael O'Donovan will be on the grazing board. And then you'll come to the Grass10 village. There also is the extended grassland village, which deal with all aspects of grass production and grass utilization, including, clover, multi-species swards, and all the research that's done over the last few years on that. Finally, Mike Ahern from Ballyduff, County Waterford, was announced as the overall winner of the Sustainable Grassland Farmer of the Year competition for 2024. So well done to Michael, and the Minister for State at the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, Mr. Noel Grealish, presented the award to Michael last week. Now, Michael excelled in many areas of this competition, and I suppose the standout areas would be the whole area of the nutrient management section, reseeding and things like that. Michael grows about 14 tonnes on average over the last 3 years and achieves about 9 grazings per paddock and has a grazing season of well over 300 days. Now, that wouldn't have happened in 2024, but when we go back to 2023 and 2022, Mike's performance is impressive. The cows supplied over 520 kilograms of mixed solids to Teagasc last year. Today, those cows are being allocated about 17.5 kilos of grass, 2.5 kilos of meal, doing 2 kilograms of mixed solids per cow per day at almost 9% solids. In actual fact, Michael had the highest milk composition in the competition. Currently, I suppose Michael is grazing is around 1,400 kilos. His average farm cover is about 640 kilograms of matter per hectare, with a growth of 52, demand of 65. Cover per livestock unit is about 173, and he's stocked at 3.7. So the stocking rate has come down to try and hold grass supply on the farm. Speaking of grass supply, Michael has made about 1 bale per hectare so far over the last few months to maintain grass quality. Michael has a very strong focus too on grazing swards out well and achieving the target, grazing residual leaving the paddock. Of course, that's made a lot easier when you enter the right type of grass. Fertilizer-wise, Mike's about 18 units of 38.07 on the grass-only swards. The clover swards that have good content, they're receiving about 10 units of nitrogen per acre. And the reseed got about 25 units of nitrogen per acre recently. So well done to Michael and his family, and there's a large team of people involved in that, so congratulations, Michael. Finally then, if you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd like to thank all those involved in the Grass10 campaign: AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update. I will talk to you all next week and hopefully meet you at the Moorepark Open Day as well. Thank you.